All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, November 8th, and this meeting is a check-in on active design and usability issues for Backdrop CMS. Let's see, starting with backdropcms.org, our flagship website, we've actually made some progress this week on two major issues. One of them is the modules, themes, layouts, search pages, which is something we've known has been an issue for a while. We have a sort of a meta issue number 442 in the backdropcms.org queue, where people have been discussing all of the different things we can do to make it better. We have designs, we need to fix the search ordering, and we want the results to include more than just modules, themes, and layouts, but also information about modules, themes, and layouts that maybe aren't needed anymore. So last week I had a plane flight where I had nothing else to work on. And I thought that was a perfect use of time. I have another one tonight, so I'm hoping to make some more progress on it today. That I have started reworking the view. It used to be like based on fields and pulled in a bunch of different fields from related objects, and I've switched it to use a special view mode that'll load the module summary in a way that matches the design, and also include like a field formatter for all of the module info at the bottom. So I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more versatile where we can plunk that stuff on other places in the future if needed. And if we go back to loading individual nodes rather than fields, I'm hoping it'll be easier to use the search index to return the node IDs of items that might match search. And I'm writing a custom module to alter the way the search works so that when you search for a module name, it'll search the module title field more heavily weighted than the module body field, for example. And I think this might get us a better result than what we have right now, which is sort of treating all fields equally. And I'm hoping that we can continue to tweak that as needed. And if other people need to adjust their search results similarly, we'll come up with sort of a more standard way that's easier for people to do that. I know there's a couple of contrib modules for Drupal that allow that, and I think we should be working on solutions that anyone can use on their site for similar results. So that's what I'm kind of hoping to do with that. So, sorry. My dog is on high alert today because it's trash day. So there's like lots of trucks that keep coming to our door. It's very exciting. So apologies in advance or in hindsight even, for the barky dog. But anyway, I'm hoping to have a version by the end of the night tonight that I'll be able to submit a pull request for and let people give that a shot, see if we like it better than what we have now. Another issue that came up in particular at the BADCamp community conversation in the summit was the try a demo button on the homepage can be a little confusing for people because it goes to Pantheon. If you don't know what Pantheon is, you're not encouraged to continue going through the sign up process in order to get an account in order to see a site. And so the first thing we did right away was change the label on the button to say spin up on Pantheon, so people at least wouldn't be expecting a demo. When they click the button, they'd be expecting to spin up on Pantheon. And we do want that to be a try a demo button long term. So Nate has been working on using a tool called Tugboat, which Lullabot has created for automatic builds. So it's something that's intended where you can like file a pull request against a repository and it'll automatically spin up a sandbox, much like we have with Travis CI. So he's hooked that up with Backdrop so that when you click on that link, it would actually be something like a button where you have to fill out a little mini form. So we'll style it to look like a link. But when you click on the link, it would create a brand new sandbox that wouldn't require any kind of login. It would just drop you to Backdrop. And right now, it would basically take you to the install screen where it would ask you for basic site information. But we're going to try and change it so that we can have it actually do the install, and it would take you to a completed Backdrop site and give you username and password. And that way, we think that people who want to give it a demo don't necessarily need to see the install step. They just want to try the software. But even with it going straight to an install screen, it's better than what we have now, which is taking you to Pantheon first before you get to the install screen. So we're going to try and work to hook that up as soon as we can. And the way those works is every person who clicks on the button gets their own sandbox. So rather than something like demo module, where everyone who would click the button would see the same demo site and multiple people could be making changes to the same site, here everybody will get their same demo site, and we can determine how long that site will be around for. So you could say like kill it every 24 hours or kill it after a week. And that way we could even use something like this for a training, where like everybody go to this homepage, click the button, this is the site you get to use for today, and then tomorrow it'll disappear. And that might be something that could be useful for more purposes than just someone trying Backdrop. So Nate's really excited about it. He's got it most of the way there. The only piece left is that we need to set up a page on Backdrop that would be like you click the button and then it would be like you're about to go to Tugboat kind of interface, where we can put in all of the information we need in order to send the data we want to Tugboat to fire up the site. And originally he'd imagined we'd put some kind of like an intro video on this page to keep people active until we could load the site, but it only takes like 8 seconds to build the site. It's much faster than Pantheon spinning up a thing. So he's like, I'm not really sure an 8-second video is going to add value, but if we gave them like a paragraph of text that would be like, this is your Backdrop demo site, it will disappear in 24 hours or whatever, that might be enough information that they'd read that and they'd be like, okay, now it's been 8 seconds, and then they can proceed and their site will be there. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. So I'm super excited about that.
Is it with a progress bar, similarly to Simply Test Me, or?
So we can design it however we want. I was thinking having a progress bar there would be good, but I'm not sure that there's like an API we can hit to determine the progress. I think it's just like, is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready? Go. So we might have to do like a spinner instead, where it would be like show the spinner, and then when the answer we get back is go, it would just load the whole thing. So yeah, we'll see. I think they are working on setting up an API where they're gonna you can get more detailed information back, but it doesn't exist yet. So something similar. Okay, so that is, I think, everything that we're making on progress on for backdropcms.org right now. For the forum, we have one issue we'd like to resolve. It's issue number 59, and that's that our code block drop-down menu isn't wide enough to see the code block styles within. We've had Wes doing some work on this, but I haven't gotten something that applied to the forum site that actually works. So I wonder if like the selector doesn't match or something. So I've asked someone with some crazy JavaScript breakpoint skills to take a look at that and figure out what CSS we need to add and whether it needs to come in like after CK editor is loaded, how we would do that to try and make it fix the width of that drop-down widget. Okay, so next up is Backdrop, the product itself. So for user experience issues, our oldest issue is number 37, and it sounds like, Gregory, you tried that recently, and it's doing something really weird. So I don't know, I know you linked to a comment on the pull request, but I didn't get a chance to read exactly what that is, but there could be something in there that is causing modules to not be installed or Backdrop to think that modules aren't installed or something. I'll take a look at that later today and see if I can figure out what it is.
Yeah, there was a line that was checking for if file info hidden, or, and now the addition is or required.
Okay.
So there was a conditional there, and the only thing that was added was hiding modules that have info required.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, there might just be something that like is catching that shouldn't, that rejects the form submission instead of like evaluates fine. I don't know. I'll take a look at it and see. I don't remember exactly what that change was doing, but it sounds likely.
I use my locals. I use Bitbox for my locals, most of them, and I have issues with installing from the project installer, so I haven't tested that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spin up a ddev installation and try, because I don't think the same thing happens with the project installer. It only happens if you manually extract the module in the modules directory and try to do it from there.
That's funny.
But to be verified. Okay, I'll try ddev as well.
Okay. We also have the sticky submit buttons issue. That's issue number 566. That's one where we have a working pull request, but we need feedback from more people, whether we think it is an overall user experience improvement or not. I think it's something Laren's been using on a bunch of his sites already, and he thinks it's an improvement. It's a request I've gotten from a couple of my clients, but it is kind of a very opinionated change. And so I would love to see more feedback from more people in agreement that this is an improvement before we put it in. And what that does, if you're not familiar with it, is it takes the submit buttons on the content creation form and puts them always at the bottom of your browser. So regardless of how much scrolling is involved, you always have a submit button.
I was demoing D8, recent versions of D8. I think it was some sort of either the layout preview or the preview, and see how we've introduced the ribbon at the bottom of the page. They have a shorter ribbon that runs across the screen at the top right below the admin toolbar, which does the same thing. And I think that they're trying to standardize having sticky things up there. Maybe it would be like I remember that this idea was brought up in the past, maybe for different tickets, but
yeah, I think WordPress has I think it's WordPress has an edit button in the admin bar, and it's like edit and save is always up there. And I really like that as an alternative to our crazy tab solution where we have these weird tabs that's very Drupal-y. But I hadn't thought about it as a place to put the submit button as well. But that's interesting.
Yeah, remember, related to that issues is if the form of whatever we're doing is really long and we have the dirty flag, the messages that say this form is dirty, there's unsaved changes, in other words. And if the person has scrolled further down the page, they miss that. And then the other thing is, if the form is too long and they happen to see that, the message says click save to save your changes, but they don't see the save button. And at some point, I think I filed a ticket maybe a couple of years ago about making embedding the save button within the message, or something that has the less scrolling for the user.
Yeah.
Anyways, these are ideas we could sort of merge together, or have, or create a common UI pattern so we don't have things all over the place.
Yeah. Good idea. We have issue number 1383, which changes the submit button text for content forms to include whether that content will be draft, published, or scheduled. I think that's a no-brainer, but the current pull request needs feedback to make sure we're doing it in a way that makes sense. Next issue, 3122, separates the help text for status options. So I think right now there are 3 status options. There's 2 sets of help text, and it's grouped together in the one paragraph after the last option. And so the attempt was to separate the text so that it goes with each option. So each option has an explanation. Add another explanation for the option that doesn't have one, and then style all form option descriptions to look nicer and not be not make it look like those elements are for unrelated parts of the form. So I think there's sort of a global CSS change that we have to make there that'll make all forms look and behave better. And then there's the specific text separation for this individual issue. 2858 is just to make the update dependency message clear. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that one recently, Gregory, but I did some work on it because it looked like a nice piece of low-hanging fruit to just tell, I don't know who started that one, it might have even been me, to just tell people what the problem was when they're running updates, rather than just saying there is a problem. You could say this particular module couldn't do this particular thing. And we had that information already, we just had to print it to the page. So I think that's, it's ready, we just need someone to do some testing on it. Promoted modules in the installer. This is also, so this is something that requires changes in a handful of places. One of them is the feed that comes out of project module, and I think that's the hardest one because I think there's just a custom query that determines that. And then once we get the promoted modules at the top of that list, we need to also get them to appear in your application when you're using the installer, but we also want them to appear on backupcms.org when you're using the search. And so I'm hoping that my changes to the search ordering will be able to take into account the promoted or recommended modules. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but I think we're making some progress on Practice CMS org that should help. And hopefully, if we can get a little change to project module, we can start to test that. And once it's working there, we can kick that over to project browser, and hopefully it'll be the same there too.
Yeah, I think step one would be to find find a common ground on actually flagging the projects as being promoted in the .org, like the release nodes. That would be step one.
Is it the release nodes or I was thinking the project nodes?
Oh, yeah, the project nodes, yeah, because the entire thing. Yeah, correct. Yeah. The project nodes. Yeah, sorry.
So you mean setting up
like an extra
process for determining which ones are promoted? Okay.
So, or adding a checkbox to the actual node type.
So we're just going to use the built-in promoted one.
Yeah. We mentioned that in the previous meeting, and I think Nate had an objection because it said that the promoted thing might be used for other reasons. That's why I said we need to come to a common ground. Okay. What we're going to use, if it's going to be that, which I don't have an objection, or if it's going to be a separate, like an additional checkbox.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds to me that promoted makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't know if I think the reason he might be thinking that is because he might have something else in mind for that checkbox, and I don't know what that is. But okay. Yeah, for me, I just thought promoted because if we're going to put it in project module and other sites might use project module, using something in core would be good. But I don't know if he has other plans for that.
Yeah, and besides in Backdrop, we've changed the promoted to front page to just promoted, from what I can remember. And since these are going to be promoted projects, it makes sense to me.
Okay. And then any other user experience issues we have for Backdrop are tagged with square bracket UX. And we have even a subset of those for 1.12 if anyone is interested in working on user experience issues. All of them can probably go in before 1.12 unless they are significant enough that they need to be pushed to 1.12. But either way, user experience issues are prioritized, and we'll try and get them in as soon as they're ready. All right, so we have a handful of design-related issues too. The first one is number 3209, which is to add predefined color schemes to the basis theme. So we have a pull request on that issue that adds a handful of predefined color schemes. I think they were taken from Bartik. But I want to make sure that before we commit them, we run all those color combinations through an accessibility checker to make sure the contrast is high enough. And if we find that the contrast on any of them isn't high enough, I would like to get that fixed in Bartik as well. So just making sure like text on background comes out in a way that everyone can read it. And I think other than that, it's ready. Like it looks like all of the color schemes are there and they change correctly and they look good. We just need to make sure the colors are correct. Or I'm not sure colors can be incorrect, but easier for everyone to read. All right, here's an issue that needs opinions. It's number 3309. This is something that I do on a lot of my themes where I will manually go in and remove the tabs from the user login page. The fact that it says like login, password reset, register, or login, register, password reset is something that's a total giveaway that it's a Drupal or Backdrop site. And so I often like to remove those and instead replace it with links on the form. And the form that goes into the sidebar user login form already contains these links where it's like, here's a little form and then there's a link to either login or register. So I often just take that text and drop it into the main form with a form alter and then remove the tabs from that page to sort of make it look less Drupal-y or less backdrop-y. And so I thought, because I do that on every site, maybe this is an improvement that everyone else would also want and something we should consider doing for core. And so I think the issue, everybody's like, oh yeah, it's an improvement, but how heavy-handed do we want to be about this? Is this something we should only do in Basis because we think anyone who extends Basis wants this feature, but not everybody who has a custom theme? Or is it something that would benefit every site if we removed it site-wide? So I think we just need more feedback on it. I'm personally like, we're moving it everywhere. Everyone will love it, but that's because I love it. And so I don't know if there's like a good use case where people are like, no, I definitely need those tabs. And if you take them away, I'm going to have problems. Or I really like the aesthetic. So just I think more voices on that issue would be useful.
I'm actually with you then, because I see it as a pattern in most modern sites. I think this is a thing of the past, like that stayed with Drupal and with Backdrop. But if it is to break people's sites, like if they have already styled this page, then the only compromise that I can think of is if, at least in basis, we made it an option in the theme. It would make it easier for people to switch to that. So for you, for example, for you and me and other people that like them as links, that all they'd have to do is just check a checkbox in the theme settings. And this way we keep the backwards compatibility intact.
Yeah. That would be a problem, though, for any theme that is not basis, right? They wouldn't get that advantage. So like most of my sites, I've got a couple that are basis sub-themes, but most of them are not. And so if we put that change in core, it wouldn't affect any of those. But if we made some kind of like user settings checkbox, like a higher up than a theme, where you could decide whether you wanted those tabs to be displayed or not, and then we could do like a template pre-process alter or whatever layout. I don't know what level of the page that's on. Probably a layout or something. And then we could also do a form alter to stick those things in higher. So we could have it either be a checkbox where it's like put it back the way it was before, or we could have a checkbox that would be like make it the way I want it now. And then people could opt in. So we could have it default to being off for new sites, and people with old sites could still have it on, something like that. But we wouldn't break old sites, but all new sites would have it. We just need to figure out like how much extra code it's adding to add that backwards compatibility, and if it's worthwhile. So
I was checking to see if we have a generic settings, global settings thing under appearance, and we don't have a specific tab, but we have the section that says that has the setting about the administrative theme, and it already has a checkbox that says use the administrative theme when editing or creating content. Maybe such an option fits somewhere there.
But also might fit with like user account settings. Since this is just about logging in, like we have a section about login information, right? We could have something there that's like, I don't know what the language would be, but it's this place where you can control like whether people are allowed to log in with an email address or not. We could put it there and be like, do you want tabs on the login form?
Yeah, there is a login settings page that we have, but it mostly deals with whether to use username and email to log in, the threshold for blocking IPs or users, and I feel that this is a theme setting, so people would be looking for.
Even if it has nothing to do with the theme, you want to do it at the module level. Is it just because it's an appearance change? Is that why?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So from an end user perspective, like the clickety-click guy, it's a thing that changes its theme or how the login page is themed, styled. So I would, as a newcomer, look for it under appearance.
Okay, interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, we could also just add another a form there that's like user login experience or something, whatever we want to call it, and have some settings in there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Installer design, mobile update. We have designs. I don't think we have a pull request yet. This is number 2873, so we need someone to work on that. And then we also have an issue to make the basis maintenance page look nicer. That's 2528, and that also needs someone to work on it. So we have both examples of Barthic and 7 of what the maintenance page can look like when it's designed, and it just looks like it has been overlooked in basis. So even just copying what we've done from one of those other things, I think would be a step in the right direction.
Then there's another issue that is worth adding to that list, just so that we don't. The one that Wes started, 3171, about the redesign of the Views UI, which is quite interesting, like regrouping things in the UI so that it makes sense and it's less intimidating. So I know that Wes doesn't have a lot of time recently, but maybe someone else can pick it up if we decide what we want to do with it.
Okay.
Which is also suggesting that we should add something similar to the theme preview that we've introduced and the color preview, like previewing the views in an actual
front-end theme.
Front-end theme, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my major concern about changing views is that views is so complicated that if we change it significantly, we're going to be breaking everybody's current understanding of how to use it. But if we change it slowly a little bit at a time, I think that might be our best option. So I love the idea of putting in a better preview. But regrouping things, I think, is going to be really hard because it's going to take anyone who knows how to use a view, and it's going to make them need to learn something new for backdrop. So I think we need to look at each change really carefully and be like, does the moving this make it worthwhile that people aren't going to know where to find it anymore? But I mean, we know views isn't ideal. It's just...
Yeah, there's two things to consider there. The people that are using and configuring views are advanced users, but if someone, a non-advanced user, decides to actually start using it or learning about it, they'll probably find video tutorials online that refer to the old UI. So it might be confusing, but at the same time, I don't know. It seems like from the mockup that Wes has provided, it seems everything is more tidy and organized in a way that it makes sense. I guess we'll have to. And I'm not sure if he had a switch somewhere that would switch to an advanced mode or something like that.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind too is that we might be about to get a whole bunch of new people from Drupal 7 with the Drupal 7 end of life. And so I think it might be worth holding off on something like this until after all those people have either decided to come to Backdrop or not, just so that, like, long term, we're going to end up with more people who are new to this interface than people who are coming from Drupal 7. But short term, I think we're about to get a whole bunch of people who already have this knowledge. And so I think if you look at like all the people that are using Backdrop, how many of them know how to use views already, or how many of them are new? For a while, we're still going to have like majority of people with views knowledge. And then after a while, that's going to trail down and we're going to be getting only new people. So it might be, I mean, there's some things in here that are really great. Like the live preview, we definitely should look at doing that. Like rearranging the top of the page about like how the current display is, that's all fine. But I think about like reorganizing the stuff inside, we should just look at it carefully.
Yeah.
Like we can't just...
the overall thing is 2.0 thing.
Maybe.
It might be worth just chiming in that issue and saying,
yeah, I want to look at it in more detail, maybe even try it. Does he have a pull request? No,
it's not a pull request, it's just a design, it's a mock-up.
Okay, well, I'll look at the mock-up too and see, because I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's really good that we could do that wouldn't cause too much trouble, but I want to look at it really closely.
Yeah.
All right. So I've added that. If anyone's interested in other issues that are specifically tagged for 1.12, we have a milestone for that. We also have a tag for all design-related issues. In the sidebar, it is audience-design. So if you want to take a look at any design-focused issues and either just give your opinion or provide designs or help us bring those issues to completion. We do need to make Backdrop feel like more of a complete product than Drupal, because that's what our audience is expecting. And so making sure it's well designed and has a great user experience is really important to help us make that goal. All right, other design-related non-website tasks. We have only one on here, which is that we are interested in getting a pop-up banner for events. And this is not one of those annoying windows that like pops up on your screen. This is a real-life banner that we could put at a booth or next to a desk during training that would just give people sort of an indication that Backdrop, this is the place for Backdrop, whether it's a summit or a training or a BOF or registration desk or whatever it is. We're definitely interested in having printed materials created, which means we need to have them designed. And so if we have anyone who's interested in designing a booth or just a pop-up banner we could put next to a booth, we are thinking about it. So open for volunteers. And that's all I have for today's meeting. We have an open Q&A section at the end of every meeting, so if anyone has any questions or comments, this is a good time to bring them up. I don't know, Greg, if you have anything else that's not on the agenda?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So then why don't we go ahead and wrap up this meeting, and then we will start in 15 minutes our regular weekly meeting where we can talk about issues that aren't designer usability focused. All right. So thanks, guys, for joining and watching, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks, if not before. Bye.